Peace, peace, peace. I am Philip Roundtree, and you are tuned into the June 15th edition of Rhetorically Speaking. Props to those of you who are tuned in on Facebook Live. Of course, shouts to those of you who are tuned in on YouTube Live, and you hit the subscribe button. I don't know if my daughter going back to that white Christian school next year, but in the event that she does, I'm still going to need to monetize this at some point. So please hit the subscribe button. Listen, it's definitely appreciated. And last but not least, shout out to those of you who are watching on Instagram Live, watching this clip once it airs. So listen, we got a dope show on tap. I shouldn't have said white Christians. You know what I mean? Not with guests, right? I could do this, but when I'm by myself, I could talk my talk. But when you got special guests like the amazing I thought she was frozen for a second. We was having some technical difficulties earlier. All right, there we go. There we go. She's good. She's good. Listen, the last few weeks have been an honor and a privilege for me to have some amazing artists who will be, offering up their art as a part of the Philadanco virtual benefit that is taking place on June 27th. Again, it is a virtual benefit. If you want to learn more about it, go to www.philadanco.org. Listen, you know what? I'm learning about Philadanco and what it means to not only the city of Philadelphia, but what it means to black folk. 2 weeks ago, I had on Joan Myers Brown and the amazing artist Terrence. Last week, I had on Professor Emeritus, right? Emeritus John Dowell, who again a phenomenal brother. Again, my first foray into interviewing folk with Wikipedia pages. I think they were like 3 and 4, right? It's an honor for me to be able to have these type of discussions and conversations, especially because it is benefiting Philadanco, who was hit hard by COVID. They had to cancel their European tour, which we know funding matters, and we know they're not necessarily getting the type of funding that spectacular. One of them people who was doing the PPP fraud. I don't know. I'm not putting them on blast, but we know the people that needed the money and needed the funding, they weren't getting it, right? And Philadanco was one of those people. Again, systems, right? Systems, and so they're having this virtual benefit on June 27th, and I'm joined tonight by an amazing artist, vegan, right? Because that was on the web
Yeah.
page. I got to make sure I check out the web page. It said vegan, right?
Yeah.
And so when
Yeah.
somebody puts that up there, that means that they real about it and they're sincere about it. It means a lot to them. And so who am I not to say vegan, right? and an entrepreneur. They're one of Philly Mag's 76 most influential persons. They're the founder of Creative Repute LLC, a company that specializes in graphic design, website development, and brand identity. Their work as an artist has been recognized by Rad Girls, an organization that celebrates women's accomplishments, the Colored Girls Museum, and Mural Arts Philadelphia. I want to welcome Nile Livingston to Rhetorically Speaking. I had a chance to look at some of her amazing art. And again, it's just breathtaking. It's just breathtaking. And I want to thank you for coming through to be in conversation with me.
Hey everyone. Thanks for having me.
No doubt, no doubt. So, for those who know me, they know I'm a therapist, right? And I want to get into. I like to get straight to it, straight to the meat. So, if you can just let me know a little bit about you and a little bit about the impact that visual art has had in your life.
Yeah, well, thank you for that introduction. I think you covered a lot of it. But if I were to expand on it, I think something that people might be interested in knowing is visual. And I just fell in love with visual arts just because I like how limitless it is. I can use a wide range of medium with it, such as ceramics, combine that with graphic design or digital art and painting. So since graduating from Kappa High School, moving on to Kutztown University and forward, I've really found a way to support myself through visual arts over the years. So that's how I really first fell in love with art. I also just grew up in a supportive household. My grandfather was an architect, and my dad was a draftsman. So I grew up around office supplies, rolls of drafting paper, things to make things with, like kneaded erasers and clay and paper clips. So I think that also was really foundational in my interest in art. If that offers a little bit of background.
It does, it does. But again, the therapist in me, I gotta go a little deeper, right? I gotta go a little deeper. So harken back to when like you first might have picked up a piece of clay, a paintbrush, a crayon, or whatever it was, and just that feeling that you got from it.
Um, I remember like, I mean, I don't remember the very first time just because
Well,
I was
yeah.
exposed to it at such a young age. I was always around it. Um, but I just remember moments of like going out to eat, and my dad was just always there drawing people at other tables and then showing my sister and I the drawings. That was really inspiring for me. And then like going to the park, and I like going to the museum. Even as a kid, like even though I went to the museum, like outside, I like climbing the sculptures. So that's how I got my exercise in. Um, and then like school also is extremely supportive. Like I know not too many people have art classes these days, but like growing up, we were given art supplies and acts to create things. Uh, and I think that's the area that I seem to be able to connect with people the most in, because I was really shy as a kid. So if I could draw something, if I could draw a funny picture of the teacher, like kids would come and swarm around my desk and look at it or pass it around. So it was just a way of making friends for me.
Wow, that's interesting to hear that using art as a medium to connect with people. And I know you said that on your on your website, which is nilelivingston.com. You talked about how, and I have it here quoted. Each new post is like a diary entry documenting my own becoming as a creative, intellectual, and spiritual person. It's how I connect and build strong relationships with people. And so it seems like it's something that started from an early age where in order to connect with people, you want to use a talent that you had in order to again make these connections, whether they're just to get some laughs from some kids or to forge some healthy relationships and bonds.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always trying to grow and expand. So for me, instead of writing a diary entry, my form of expression is to record what's happening in the world through a visual way. And it's not always just about me. Sometimes it's about things happening in the world. A lot of my work focuses on social justice issues, uh, things that are happening in current events, or things happening just within my own micro neighborhood with some of the street art projects that I work on. So a lot of it is just really about documenting and trying to be or remain relevant and just keeping my eyes open and observing what's happening around me. Uh, Sculpture and metal fabrication, large scale metal fabrication. Yeah. Well, I think I realized it within the first couple of weeks, but I have to take intro to everything. So intro to printmaking, intro to ceramics, etc. And I really liked sculpture for a number of different reasons. For one, the sculpture professor at the time was really rambunctious, and she was a woman, and her personality and everything just stood out against everyone else in the department. And two, I was like looking at each major and not to reduce it, but I was thinking everything else I can kind of teach myself, like the internet. a lot of information was on it. So when it came to computer graphics, I was able to watch YouTube videos to learn how to do things. Painting was just really relaxing, but I was like sculpture and metal fabrication. I have to be in the actual space, and I need to learn classroom safety, and I need to learn like how to use the tools. And it was just so involved. Like some of my sculptures are too big for just me to even move around, so I needed help, and it
Oh
was
wow.
collaborative. So I was like, I really want to study sculpture because I felt like that's something that I couldn't teach myself or figure out on my own. Like I needed to actually be there to learn how to do it. So I really loved sculpture, but it honestly at this point it feels like a different version of myself, like another lifetime. I would love to pick it up again, but it's been so many years,
So
well over 10 years at this point.
can you expound upon that? Like, I think for so many of us, right, we have this idea of who we are for that moment in time, and so we get these degrees in these fields, and it's like, hey, this is what I see myself doing potentially, and then next thing we know, life happens, and a cosmic shift happens, and now we're completely different. So, can you speak to that?
Yeah, when I first graduated from Kutztown, I could not find a job that could use my skills in metal fabrication or anyone who would hire me, or even just give me additional experience working out in the field. So I used some of the skills that I learned at Kappa High School uh, at the Muir Arts program, and I put together a volunteer mural painting project with one of my childhood friends. So we just went around to like local barbershops, the community centers, the churches, hairdressers, and corner stores, and asked people to come out and help us. It was at a playground in North Philly. So we asked the kids to come out and help as well. And we just asked for like donations of supplies from Home Depot and Lowe's. I called on some of my old mentors and people who taught me the mural painting process to come out and offer us advice. And it was all volunteer, and it was all figuring things out and problem solving as we went along. But through that project and through word of mouth, more people heard about the painting project, and it seemed like my path just went in the direction of helping people behind the scenes with their mural projects. And they can also see I was like really good on the computer. I could render things very quickly, and so through that, it just led to more graphic design projects. And then by the year 2017, I was at a place where I was receiving too many commissions that me as a solo person, I couldn't complete them all within the deadline by myself. So I decided to incorporate and just call on help from other creatives and specialists. And I formed Creative Repute through that. And over the years, we've brought in specialists and people who know even more than I do about branding and graphic design. And we've expanded our services to respond to our clients' needs, which includes now website development, user experience, and strategy. Uh, and so that's basically why I haven't picked up or focused more on metal fabrication. But if given the opportunity, I would definitely like to see how I can weave that into some of the things I've learned and over the years and what I'm doing today.
Word. That's dope. Having too many commissions. That's an amazing
Not a bad
amazing
problem.
problem to have.
Yeah,
Exactly. Because it birthed an amazing business. And again, anything that comes to us that adds purpose and value to our lives, right? Is That's what we're here for. So
yeah.
that's dope to hear. So in looking at some of your work, I notice a theme of activism within it. And so, can you speak to that a little bit? Just what activism means to you, and how you incorporate it into your art.
Yeah, I mean, I think people started labeling me as an activist before I even knew I was one. Because for me, I'm just doing what seems natural. Like if something happens, like I would just naturally respond to it because it just seems like this needs attention drawn to it. But just reflecting on my work, I do realize like this is 100% activism. Some examples, like during the pandemic, a lot of people were trapped at home with their abusers. And so the domestic violence hotline in Philadelphia noticed that less people were calling because they weren't.
I think she was having some internet problems. We'll give her a minute for her to log back in.
Can you hear me? All right, I'm trying on my mobile phone to try again on my computer.
And so I want to thank everybody for we're working through these technical difficulties. We need to have a conversation with Comcast. We need to have a few conversations with Comcast. But first things first, we can get to providing internet service to low income individuals and why kids in school still didn't have access in the midst of a pandemic. But first, we would have to talk to them about Nile's service. That's first and foremost, no doubt. But no, we all good. But before we left off, we were talking about just activism in your artwork. So if you can speak to that.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of activism, I feel like internet should be free. So should healthcare. We have a lot of things we need to fix about the society we live in. But I think before we got cut off, I was talking about a couple of the projects I was working on just during the pandemic, and one of them was just making sure that people who are experiencing issues with domestic violence knew that they could still access resources. So, for example, we just place space pads in areas where people were likely to go no matter what, which is like the supermarket, which is an essential errand. And then when everything closed, there were no public toilets or bathrooms available. So people who didn't have a home had nowhere to get washed up. So I worked with Arts and the Broad Street Ministry to put murals in front of public hand washing stations. So the mural would draw attention to the fact that there's a sink here that you can use. Um, and then just like the overwhelming feeling that I was getting from the social media and the news and just emails and everything, I turned some clippings from that into a black and white mural painting, and this was mostly a passion project for myself. It's on my website, but that was just like a personal. Thank you. It's a lot happening in it. I named it Entanglement after the clip from Jada Pickett and Will Smith because I felt like everything that was happening just felt like a tanglement of things. And for me, it was about making a reminder that everything that we do affects something else. Like there's a cause and affects everything. And I think just the way our society is set up is that we think we have one singular person like who's supposed to tell us what we need to do, but really it's about community care and helping your neighbors and people near you if they need help, and just taking more control over the over each other's well-being. And essentially, I think that's what Philadanco is doing with this fundraiser and art auction. It's calling to people within the community and asking for support to keep doing what you're doing.
Word, word. Now, we and I have a few of your portraits up at right now, and so this one definitely caught my eye. And then there was another of Tajane. Am I pronouncing it right?
Yeah, you're pronouncing it right. That's also one of my favorite paintings to date. That was in collaboration with the Color Girls Museum, and it's for an exhibition called "First Time Ever I Saw Your Face." So several artists were asked to find a muse to paint for the exhibition, and it's available virtually online. If you visit their website, you can pull up more information. And they're another institution in Philadelphia that could definitely use support during this time. Uh, and so I think when most people think of a color girl, they usually think of like femme presenting girls. And so I wanted to show that there's a wider spectrum of who's included as a color girl. So I found Tajane, who's dark skinned, masculine presenting, and I talked to her for some time and learned more about her interests and hobbies. And she's 17 at the time that I painted her. This was right at the beginning of 2020, and so I just tried to paint her in her natural pose. Like whenever she's sitting down, she always takes this form, and that's the form that she takes, her posture. So that's what that painting is about.
Dope, dope. And the last one is, one of my, all-time favorite artists, Miss Nina Simone. So can you speak to this one?
That's also definitely one of my favorites. So I remember the first time ever I like consciously heard Nina Simone songs. I think I was in like a store in West Philly and I was playing on the store speaker. And this woman was like just talking to me about Nina Simone. And so I went home and found more music by her. And she's also an activist and really into social justice work. And learning more about her life is just really inspiring to me. I think that a lot of her music, it's really expressive, and there's a lot of emotion behind it. So I wanted that painting to be really expressive, and it drips and splatters with paint in the background. And I used one of the paint splatters to form her figure playing the piano. So the big splash of black in the middle is like it forms her hair, and it drips down, and there's piano keys. And I worked on that for a couple of years, just living with it, and then like gluing something onto the canvas or taking something off the canvas until I felt like it felt right. But if you ever get to see it in person, there's like small details like I glue music sheet notes to the canvas. It has guitar strings on it and twigs from trees and things like that.
Word. Listen, again, it's, amazing, amazing pieces of art. Now, I do want to ask, is that something common? You say that you worked on it for a period of a few years, and I think, unless it's something that the layperson, right? The layperson, we might think, unless it's something like the Sistine Chapel, you know what I mean? That, artists aren't necessarily spending years on a piece of art. So can you speak to that?
I mean, it's definitely a luxury and a privilege to be able to work on something for years. For me, it can only be something that is like an outside project, not a client project. Because a lot of my work, it's for a specific purpose. And so that for me, the Nina Simone painting was just something that I just wanted to do on my own. And it wasn't just straight through for years. Like it wasn't every single day. It was like, let me pause on this for a couple weeks and then revisit it when I'm feeling inspired. Um, and I honestly, I wish I could work on more projects that way. But I think through capitalism, like I just have to keep going with a lot of things. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think like just thinking about like even trying to find a home for it. I think a lot of people really like this work, um, but somehow it always finds its way back to me, which I appreciate. So I think I'm just gonna hold on to Nina Simone. But honestly, I don't have much art here because most of my work is made for commission or made for the public, so it's out in the world or accessible, or even virtual or digital. But this is one of the few paintings that actually just happen to have at home with me. So
Yeah, yeah, word. Well, if you feel like it needs another home, right? I
yeah,
know somebody who definitely will take care of it and love on Nina and
thank you.
and the piece of art. I'm talking about myself if you weren't
Uh,
aware.
I'm
So
definitely attached to it at this point.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I
no,
like
I
that
dig it.
painting behind you. I like the splatters in it. Biggie
Yeah,
Smalls.
for sure, for sure. I think I've talked about it the last 3 weeks. A Philly artist named Justin Watlington. He goes by the blind artist. He has one eye that he lost in a traumatic situation back in his early childhood. Uh,
Yeah,
exper-
I
Experienced some
never met
deaths and
Justin, but I do follow him on social media. I
okay.
know his family member. I think it might be his auntie, Cheryl, who founded the Evelore House, who teaches urban girls tools that they need to be successful as they grow older. So I think Justin comes from a cool family.
Word,
Philly's
word.
small though.
It is, and I know he had some trauma with his parents, and that really took him away from art until like his mid 20s or so. But again, it's these types of art. It's meaningful, and you can see the just the inspiration, and you can see the passion and the love that goes into the art, whether it's this or whether it's those three pieces that we just saw. Again, it's just phenomenal. I find myself just in awe of of you and the individuals that I've had on previously, just because I see the commitment to black folk, right, which is what Philadanco is all about. And so, switching gears to just Philadanco, how did you come to be a participant in this virtual benefit?
Through Zane. Zane reached out. I just ran into Zane just from being in a circle in Philly. I think just being out and about. Actually, it's been my partner. Zane knew that I'm an artist, and so he asked me to be a part of it. And I'm really honored that he reached out because I think there's some amazing other artists that are included in the auction. So
For
it's great
sure.
to be included as well.
Word, word. And what do you hope for people to just get out of the virtual benefit, especially when it comes to your pieces of art?
I think the things that they get from it is just to support each other. I think a sense of community, to support arts and artists because dancers are artists as well. And I know it's a lot to pour your whole body into something because even me, when I paint large scale murals, like that's a lot on my body. But I also have the option of like curling up into my sofa and working on something small if I want. But dancers, like you're always all in with your full body. And so I know that's a lot. And I think it definitely deserves to be supported. Um, and so those are the main takeaways that I hope people get from this. Would you like to check out the work that I have?
I definitely would. I definitely would. And then I wanted to get your thoughts on just the state of art, especially here in Philadelphia. I follow some city councilmen and some dope artists, not necessarily a visual artist. And I know there's a lot of conversation and maybe a law or bill that city council is attempting to pass with regards to funding for just arts in general for the city. So I just wanted to
Yeah.
get your thoughts on just the current state of art.
I mean, in terms of the political world, I'm really happy that more people are pouring funds into supporting the art. I think that it attracts more revenue to the city, tourists, it puts us on the map, it draws attention to spaces and needs and communities, and unfortunately, sometimes developers as well. But um, I think something that I really appreciate about Philly is how supportive the creative community is here. I think as opposed to other places where there's a lot of competition and contests, I think Philly people find ways to collaborate with each other and support each other. And I think I have a little bit of an advantage because I was born and raised in Philly, so I've been here most of my life. So I think for me, I'm able to make connections with people and or people have heard about me at some point or another. So I've also, I guess I'm speaking from a place of privilege. Like I've felt very supported, but I also know that it's going to be important to not always rely on the government or politicians, uh, and that self sufficiency has to come from within. So that's something that I hope Philly holds on to because I know it's rapidly changing.
Rapidly changing, no doubt. So no, I appreciate your response to it. But yeah, let's check out some of your art now. This will this art be available for the virtual
Yeah,
benefit? Okay.
Yeah, and speaking of Justin, I actually got this idea from him because I've never actually done something like this before. I was watching his Instagram, and he prints his artwork on canvas, and then he embellishes it, which means that after it's printed, he'll paint sections of it
Yeah, that's
and
what he
then
did to
sign
that
it.
one.
So
Yeah.
this is my first painting that I'm ever going to embellish for anyone, and I've already started. So like if you look at the side, you can see like I added this white paint and it's textured because it's like actual paint as opposed to print. But I'm going to go through it some more and embellish other sections of it and sign it. So this is an embellished canvas, and the name of it is, let me make sure I'm getting the right name that I also put online. Hold on once. Circle of Women.
Okay.
And it has figures in it. It was originally inspired by a Henry Matisse painting, but I replaced the figures in Henry Matisse's painting with people like Eartha Kitt and Catherine Dunham. Uh, and so it's about Black bodies and women. Uh, and for me, I just appreciate how expressive they are.
Word.
So this
That's
is
dope.
available for the auction.
Again, I just be
Oh,
sitting in awe. Like I
and
just
it's
have so many questions,
ready to
just
hang.
related to.
Yeah.
You know, you mentioned art classes, and I remember my last art class was in, I want to say, seventh or eighth grade, and I think we were like shading like a ball. You know what I mean? But that's something that I continue to do. Like I felt proud about it. Like even still to this day, like I'll make a circle and I'll just do a little shading, and it's just that came from 30 or 20 something years ago. You know what I
Yeah. I
mean?
mean,
But just the confidence that comes from that.
yeah, I think uh, art. I think it comes into play in it can come into play in everyday life, and I think it definitely is developmental. I think all kids should be exposed to art growing up, even if they go in different paths. I can definitely see how knowing these things can inspire and influence such a wide range of other uh, things that people can focus on. So that's cool that you still think about highlights and shadows and things like that in contrast.
Yeah, and now it got me thinking back. Like, I used to draw a lot. I took a art class. It was at Stanton and Washington Lane in the West Oak Lane section, and it was by the guy who created the Brother Man comics. And that was like my first foray into recognizing, hey, that is black folk in comic books. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? And so he was an amazing artist. I'm not sure what happened to Brother Man Comics. Probably happened to what happened to the rest of the shit that we do. You know what I mean? But it was just again, just now you think about it, and just like these entry points into different things that might at the time might not seem like much. I'm just taking an art class, but now how meaningful that was, and what classes like his class was trying to instill in the 4 or 5 black kids that came in there to learn from them.
Yeah,
So
yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's definitely meditative. It's things that you can incorporate into your practice and therapy. And I remember when I was in high school, when I first joined neuro arts, at first I said, no, I can't join because the program was only for kids who needed community service, like kids who like committed
oh
a
wow,
crime or something and needed to do
really?
this because they had no choice. Yeah. But I was like, but I want to join. And so they opened it up to me after I showed them my portfolio. And I also asked my mom to come down and advocate for me. Um, but I think a lot of the programs, I mean, Mirrors has expanded their programming today. So it's various different areas of social justice that they focus on. But just being in that class in high school with kids who just needed to be exposed to other forms of expression, I think was I think eye opening for a lot of people in that
Word.
group.
Understood. Understood. Do you have anything else that'll be up?
Oh, anything else that what?
Anything?
That will
Any
be
other
up?
pieces of art that'll be up for
Uh,
at the benefit?
I only put one work in, but
Okay.
I think that the link is going to go live soon. So definitely check out the Philadanco website and navigate to the art gallery. There's a lot of talented artists in it.
For
Uh,
sure.
and I might even try to bid on some of the work. But this is all I have in. for myself.
Yeah.
They have 8 artists, and their goal is to raise $50,000. So for me, I see it as the artist is an added benefit. Really, people should just donate, and then they just get the art.
Agreed. Agreed, right? We talk about, for us, by us, so by us. That's been my tagline for this, right? Because again, this is about us. This is about preserving culture, preserving history. This isn't, you can't, yeah, you probably could see Philadanco on YouTube, right? Like you probably could see some, but it's something about having a conversation with Joan Myers Brown, and she talks about just the work that she's done to get this off the ground and to get it where it is, and how impactful and meaningful it is to first and foremost her. But then all the lives, she talked about Lee Daniels. I was like, Lee Daniels, he was one of your students? Like I wouldn't have pictured it, right? But
Yeah.
because he's in a different art world of art, right? And so a different area of art rather. But so many talented people have come through, and she's the mainstay, and she's the one who continues to put in the work day in and day out, no matter who's coming through that door. And so it's important that we first and foremost support her, but then support the artist as well, right? Because we recognize that again, our stories deserve to be told. And so when we see these various portraits that you've done, storytelling, when we're long gone, right, it's going to be your portrait that's there, that's able to tell a story. It might be interpreted another way, or you might have been able to have a conversation with me and I've been able to pass it on to other individuals. So we keep that in the family. Right, we keep that in the family.
For sure. It is definitely a form of passing things down through generations, and I think visual art is definitely uh, a way to preserve legacy. It preserves a story, and I really appreciate hearing Ms. Joe Meyer's story from one of your early podcasts, or what do you call it? Sessions.
Yeah,
Because
we
I,
can
I
call it
really
session. We can call it a show because it do feel like sessions at times, right?
But yeah, I just really appreciate the fact that, or I'm inspired by the fact that she really paved the way for herself in a time where there weren't many opportunities for Black women, uh, and I feel like she's basically had this uh, drive where she's like, I'm going to do this no matter what, and she created a path for so many other creatives and dancers uh, to explore their talent, and I think through that, I think even though she's going to do this no matter what, I definitely think that we should do everything that we can to support her and make her feel sustained, and the whole school and everyone involved to feel sustained as they move forward.
Agreed, agreed. And I feel the same goes for you, right? We got to make sure that you're good. And so, before we get out of here, I want to thank you for taking time out, forget the technical difficulties and all of that. Again, this is just another opportunity for us to learn and be educated from another Black person who's doing dope things on behalf of Black folk. And so I want to give you your flower. I know that's been trendy like the last year and a half. Give folk they flowers, but I want to give you your flowers and say I'm appreciative for you taking time out to come and have this conversation. And so how can we support you? How can we get in contact with you, support you?
Well, thanks for the platform, Phil. I really appreciate the work that you're doing as well. I don't have any immediate requests on support, but I would ask if you can follow me on social media and stay in touch. Um, I try to be responsive to emails, even if it's a little delayed. But my social media handle is my first and last name on everything, Nile Livingston with no space. So it's NILELIVINGSTON. And I'm accessible. Um, so yeah, I would just say let's connect on social media for now.
Word. And check out your website, of course, right?
Yeah, check out my website too.
Word, word. Well, listen, I appreciate you. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Again, Philadanco.org. The virtual benefit is June 27th. Even if you can't, afford to purchase a painting, donate $2, $3. Ice cream truck, he outside. Somebody will give him $2, $3. So again, you could donate this, donate that $2 or $3 to something that is impactful and helping out in the community. So I thank everybody for tuning in. Until next time, peace.